Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the necessity for humility and humor and how those two things are so intertwined if we're going to be great leaders in international schools in general. Welcome back to Be Good Leadership. I'm Ronnie Caldwell, as always, and I'm going to start with a story about Principal Good. That's what we're going to call him. So, Principal Good knew that the International Day had been a disaster. He knew that it had been absolute chaos and he was feeling bad about it. The reason he was feeling bad about it is because it was his first year as principal of a new international school. He had come in and he had heard that the way in which the international day at that school had been done was not to the liking of a particular parent. And that parent happened to be married to a board member. And that parent actually complained directly to him. She didn't like how the International Day had gone, and she thought that it should be done differently. She didn't like it. She didn't like it, and she gave a couple of different examples of why she didn't like it. And one immediately, Principal Good had decided, based on that conversation, we need to make some changes. We need to make some changes to this International Day. And he was so certain that what he could do to innovate and disrupt was to figure out how he could make that International Day at this new school he was principal of look like the International Day at the school he had been at before. And he went in to a meeting with the committee and for his other principals who had been there, assistant principals who had been, their International Day committee had been running for about 10 years. Not the same members, but they had a system, and they had a system in which they got feedback about every time they put out a feedback survey about the International Day. It really took steps, and each time would meet about, okay, what didn't go so well that time? What can we do? This, that, and the other. They had what to say, but he was hardly listening because he knew they had just gotten complacent and comfortable. He said they had gotten complacent and comfortable, but you know what? He had heard that people had a problem with it. And of course, he couldn't just say that I'd actually heard from one parent. So he brushed off really looking at the feedback that they had gotten from last year. And because he was so certain that he was going to innovate, he had the ideas that we needed to do to make an adjustment, try something different. And he started to use that word, innovation, because he's into innovating, trying different things, risk-taking, growth mindset. The rest of the team automatically kind of shut down a little bit and were like, okay, well, all right. They just went along with it. Come the International Day, he sees what has gone wrong. It's obvious to him people are confused, teachers, students, parents, and the amount of why questions that he's getting. Why is this changed? Why is this changed? Why is it like that? Well, we used to do it this way. I don't understand this. No one seems like they're too happy. Now, the International Day is going to be okay. There's going to be food. There's going to be flags. People are going to be celebrating the diversity of the school, everything else. So at the end of the day, it's going to go all right. But he knows that, wow, it looks like logistically and a few different other things have gone on. The parade didn't happen very smoothly. People don't really understand why we've changed the placement of sort of the food vendors. The new vendor that I decided to get because we could save money. That's what he said. He goes, got a new vendor because I felt, we could save money. So they switched from a vendor that they had had for 8 years. Why not? This new vendor seemed, I've been hearing some good things about him. A couple of parents had recommended. Well, that new vendor was late, didn't have enough food, what have you. So now they've done the survey because he figured, oh man, the feedback survey they always do. If I don't do the feedback survey about the International Day, that'll look bad. So, okay, they've been doing that for the last 10 years. I'll go ahead and do the feedback survey. So where they were at this point, Principal Good is in a meeting with the committee, and they're all looking at the survey data. Principal Good's already looked at it. So he knows what it looks like, but he's been brave enough to go ahead and let everybody look at the same data together. And he's looking at people as they're reading it in real time. And he sees people scribbling in their notebooks and some people making eyes and sort of that face of, when the car stops too quickly, like when they see the data. It's not good. There's a little tension, group, team, no one's saying anything. And Principal Good says, with the right amount of sarcasm, well, it looks like my ideas worked out, guys. He shakes his head. And a giggle starts. And he laughs at himself a bit. And then there's a giggle, and some of the tension is broken. And the rest of the people sort of breathe out. The team breathes out because they see. They knew we did exactly what Principal Good said he wanted us to do. We followed orders. We tried to say a little something, but he wasn't hearing it. So when it goes bad and we give all this feedback, what do we say? But Principal Good decided to laugh at himself. He decided to say, okay, yeah, this didn't go so well. And the next question he had was, all right, I'm sorry that I didn't, I kind of went ahead, I got my head steamed and I went ahead too quickly, but I want to hear, how do we make it better? What do we need to do next year then? He goes, I want you guys to take the lead on this because obviously there were some things I didn't see. And they had a great discussion, he said. And he said that the discussion went very well, it was very fruitful. And of course, the next year, there were a couple of things integrated from what Mr. Good had said, but it was iterative steps added on little bit by little bit to what had been done before in that context of that school. Humility and humor are key and integral to us dealing with hardship, to us learning from mistakes. Now, humility, of course, could have saved Principal Good at the beginning. A little bit of humility would have been to, okay, I've heard one person complaining, but they have an entire system in which they go about getting feedback, taking large amounts of data, and with the team, discussing it together to figure out what's the best thing to do for the next year. And this huge event for the school, the International Day, is probably one of the biggest public-facing days for that school. And instead of deciding, let me see what this is, let me be humble, let me learn, let me listen, and then add little things as I see it, he decided to take the lead, to be a disruptor, to be an innovator. Maybe unnecessarily, but you never know. But humility might have helped him at the beginning. It could have helped. Maybe some of those mistakes could have been avoided. It's one of the most preventative things you can do is to be humble, to ask questions, listen, to learn. But the mistakes have been made, and none of us are perfect. And sometimes we're going to go full force onto something that maybe we shouldn't have. We're going to make some mistakes. And even sometimes with the best data, we still make a mistake. We take in all the variables and something goes wrong. Okay. But then what he's able to do, the leadership move that he makes that's so important, is that he rediscovers that humility. He doesn't just cover it up. He could have done what many people do, which is things go bad and explain it away. Survey data comes back that, hey, man, you need to change some things up, and instead be like, oh, people are never satisfied. Make justifications for it or ignore it completely. Instead, he says, this didn't go well. Data's clear on that. I recognize that. Makes an apology, says, I'm sorry. What's the next thing? And he makes a joke of it. He makes the ability to laugh at himself, because when we can laugh at ourselves, we actually loosen up some tension. Humor is all about, the best humor is all about calling attention to the places where we're a little hypocritical, where we make our mistakes, where we're all a little bit ridiculous. It shares a little bit of humanity. It shows some vulnerability. That's the best type of humor. Humor that's connected with some humility is what we all love most. Humor that has no humility, that's all about arrogance and ego, is usually just making fun of somebody else. It's insulting someone. It's the attempted humor anyway. But this kind of humor, where he's able to be humble, to admit his mistake, and laugh at himself, also lets the team know, okay, the ego part is over. Okay, I'm ready to listen to you now. I'm ready for you guys to be honest with me and come together. And what they do is he saves himself, because so many of us, what we do when we make mistakes as leaders, we think that when we go into a leadership position or not a position, we're just leading. We do this in the classroom. Parents do this. Bosses do this. A mistake is made and they don't want to admit that the mistake was made. A mistake was made, and instead of being able to laugh at themselves and joke at their own expense, they cover it up or don't even want to mention it because they think they'll look incompetent if they admit the mistake. But actually, everyone else sees the mistake. And so when everyone else sees the mistake, but you don't want to admit it, you actually look more incompetent than if you would have said, my bad, I'm a dork. What can we do better? That shows the humility is there, so there's a willingness to learn. The recognition that you can see an error when it's happening makes people feel, oh, okay, so he has some competence, he has some humility, he has some character, and it shows a willingness to learn. And the humor makes everyone feel like this is a safe environment because we can all laugh at ourselves. Because if the leader can laugh at himself, if the leader can make a mistake, acknowledge it and laugh at itself, then I also know this is a safe space for me to take some risks, share some ideas. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to be okay because we're going to be practicing some forgive and remember. Humility and humor, so important to your leadership journey and to creating a psychologically safe environment for your people in which people can learn and you guys can get better together. Practice it today, practice it tomorrow, make it a practice in your personal life and your professional life, and be good.